Greetings, programs, and welcome to another episode of Thub Wars Presents Blistered Reviews. I'm your host, Sean Carterfeld, and this time around we'll be taking a look at the latest addition to the ever-expanding library of One Piece video games. Oh, and for those wondering, unfortunately my camera decided now would be a really good time to stop working, and so it may be a couple weeks or more before I can get back to using video intros and the like. Ah well, c'est la vie. I'm sure you're all so disappointed that you won't be able to see my pretty face for a while. Anyways, enough about that. It's time to discover the ins and outs of One Piece Unlimited World Red.
王になるのさ。海賊の王にな。奴の別名は孤高のレッド。奴はたった一人でロジャーや白ひげと渡り合っていたということだ。今一度我が名をこの世に知らしめん。我らの旗印となってもらおうか。麦わらの一味、新たな野望の第一歩だ。
すげえだろ、抜きき
てめえか。こんなふざけた戦いを仕掛けてきやがったな。
おかげで素晴らしいものが手に入った。これから我の歩む道は修羅の道だ。我には仲間などおらぬ、ただの一人者だ。
やめてくれよ、やっぱ。
お前は許さねえ。
久しぶりだな、麦わら。思う存分リターンマッチを楽しもうじゃねえか。目的を達成するには情けも甘さも捨てねばならん。
お前は何も分かってねえ。
たまには本能に従ってみろ。
ほら、分かったんだ。オイラの親分の役に立ちてえさ。仲間として。
道は俺たちが切り開いてやる。
修羅の道に貴様は必要ない。たった一人でも海賊王となってみせる。
俺は死ぬまで夢を諦めねえ。海賊王になるのは俺だ。
The good: gameplay, controls, overall story, visuals, audio. Co-op. The bad: no minimap, assumes familiarity with property, occasionally sticky camera. The ugly: ugliest dragon ever, ugliest dragon ever. Unlimited World Red features an original narrative that, as seems to be the wont for the Unlimited series, includes the Straw Hat crew facing down against old foes once again. This time around, the game goes a step further by also bringing back actual past locations like Alabasta and Punk Hazard, and it's all thanks to the titular Patrick Red Redfield, a former contemporary of the legendary Whitebeard and Roger, who escaped from Impel Down during the great battle that took place there 2 years before the game begins. Red, who was designed specifically for UWR by series creator Ichiro Oda, makes for a striking figure, with some interesting motivations behind his actions that help give some decent amount of depth to him all told. He's especially a real step up from the generic and nearly personality-free evil monsters that have served as the chief baddies of past Unlimited titles. Indeed, the same could be said about Unlimited World Red's narrative as a whole, which is simply more compelling and engaging than the series has ever previously managed. Perhaps the only thing missing from its story is a classic OP-style flashback highlighting Red's past. The game does fill in this gap, but only via dialogue, and as always it's better to show than tell, especially when flashbacks of this nature are such a staple of the main One Piece series. Still, this is a rather small complaint for a story that at the very least matches the best of the One Piece films in terms of quality and entertainment. Well, if you're already a fan of One Piece at least. I say this because UWR makes zero concessions for potential newcomers to the series, with even the now famous intro laying out the fate of Gold Roger and such being absent. Devil Fruit, the Grand Line, and countless other staples of the series go completely unexplained, and it's clear that the game was made entirely with fans of the manga and or anime in mind. Of course, One Piece is the best-selling manga of all time, and in Japan especially, this lack of explanation would be less of an issue, but it's still a major hurdle for any newcomer to overcome. I won't go so far as to label UWR as for fans only, for reasons I'll get into shortly, but I will say that if you're interested in the game and have not read or watched the series, you might at least want to brush up on things via Wikipedia or the like before taking the plunge. Meanwhile, fans of the series will find a story that forgoes the more typical beat-the-evil world-threatening monster of previous Unlimited games in favor of a more low-key yet ultimately meaningful tale that's truly in keeping with the spirit and essence of One Piece as a whole. Nor is the story the only area where UWR shows signs of improvements thanks to gameplay that includes the most refined and engaging take on combat from an Unlimited title yet. Unlike past games, players will go into battle with 2 teammates on the field at all times, and you can switch between all 3 at will. Furthermore, good teammate AI means one's allies will more than hold their own throughout, and will never feel like useless baggage. The game also features an in-depth blocking, dodging, counter system that encourages more than just simple button mashing, and more varied enemies, with boss battles in particular being real standouts. Now, a single fight with a major baddie in UWR plays out the same, and the sheer variety in these struggles makes every new encounter a joy to overcome. Nor are these fights a pushover, even on the lower difficulty settings, with some boss battles almost feeling like something out of Monster Hunter or the Souls games, in the way that they all but demand that players learn the patterns and timing of their foe in order to achieve victory. Those who just rush in and try to treat UWR like a Warriors game will be in for a nasty surprise, and indeed, regular enemies can also present a real challenge in sufficient numbers, especially the early goings of the game before the Straw Hats have been appropriately powered up using the game's extensive crafting system. Said system is such a major part of Unlimited World Red that it extends to the town that serves as the game's central hub, and players will be able to build a variety of structures that will both expand the town and offer many useful functions in their own right. So, for example, building a drugstore lets players purchase a variety of useful healing items, while building a museum and stocking it with various critters and fish found around the island will generate money every time players leave town. Meanwhile, opening up a restaurant will let players permanently increase a Straw Hat crew member's stats, provided they can gather the ingredients and cash needed for a given dish, of course, while constructing a factory will let players both enhance equipment and purchase otherwise rare crafting ingredients. Every structure in the game can be further leveled multiple times to increase its functionality, and it all adds up to a surprisingly deep system that offers plenty of rewards to those prepared to put the time into it. Unlimited World Red's main story mode is divided into 2 main types of levels: story episodes and tavern quests. The former should be self-explanatory, and over the course of the game's 9 episodes, players will revisit old locales, both expected and otherwise. Beyond simple nostalgia, these blast from the past levels also open up the opportunity for characters not originally present in the series to get to add their 2 cents. So if you've ever wanted to see Brooke troll that old tin stomach himself Wapple, or how Frankie would deal with the heat and burning sands of Alabasta, then UWR is the game for you. Players can revisit completed episodes freely to gather crafting material or grind for experience, but thankfully Tavern Quest generally makes doing so unnecessary. These are the game's versions of side quests, and there are a truly massive number of them just waiting for players to uncover. At first, these quests are very simple in nature, with such goals as killing a certain number of foes, or gathering a certain number of items, but as players progress and unlock additional quests, things start to get more diverse and challenging. Indeed, later quests will even open up new areas otherwise inaccessible via story episodes, such as the restaurant ship Barati during the battle with Don Krieg. Overall, UWR's main story mode should take most players around 12 to 15 hours to complete, with dozens of additional potential hours of gameplay awaiting those looking to beat every quest and craft every item available. The game even features a new Game Plus mode that lets players keep all their progress except for story episodes, while also raising the overall difficulty level sharply. And that still isn't even all that Unlimited World has to offer, thanks to an entire separate gameplay mode based loosely on the goings-on in the current story arc of the manga. Coliseum mode stands apart from the main game by foregoing all exploration and platforming in favor of straight-up arena-based combat. This mode also removes the ability to enhance or customize characters, and restricts players to at most one other ally character at any given time. The conceit behind this mode is that Luffy and company, including fan favorite Law, end up entering a tournament being held by current baddie du jour, Don Quixote Don Flamingo. The fact that this mode not only has a plot at all, but fully voiced and animated cutscenes as well, left me astounded, and they even managed to include a couple genuine plot twists along the way for good measure. While in story, the Straw Hats, and Law, are technically the ones doing all the fighting, but players can in fact unlock a whole bundle of other characters ranging from Jimby, to Ace, to Buggy, and more. By winning bouts and completing achievement-like goals, players can win all sorts of rare crafting material for use back in the main game, and even eventually unlock Tavern Quest, which lets players run through the main game's various levels as other characters beyond the Straw Hats as well. Add in a number of different options for fighting, ranging from one-on-one bouts, to boss rushes, to mixed battles, simultaneously featuring multiple bosses and armies of regular enemies, and you have a secondary game mode that's anything but a disposable afterthought. Honestly, the only real problem with UWR's gameplay is the conspicuous lack of a minimap in the main mode. Instead, players will have to visit the main menu whenever they need to scope out the lay of the land, and a manual camera system that, while not bad, can take a bit of time to fully adapt to. These are fairly minor issues in the greater scheme of things, though, and really, UWR's gameplay is strong enough that even non-One Piece fans can find plenty to enjoy in the game, provided they can get past what may be a fairly impenetrable narrative to them. Rounding out the game are strong production values that include good visuals, especially considering this is a remake of a 3DS title, excellent music, and the usual appealing voice cast. Japanese only once again, sorry dub fans. Half the cutscenes in the game are brilliantly choreographed and fully animated, while the other half are just still images, which is no doubt a holdover from the title's 3DS days. Regardless, overall, One Piece Unlimited World is easily the best One Piece game developed to date, and a title strong enough to be worthy a look-see even by non-fans. And for the One Piece faithful, it's a not-to-be-missed experience that at last gives the One Piece franchise a game comparable in quality to the brilliant Naruto Ninja Storm series. Score, 8 out of 10, awesome. Recommendation, buy it now. And that's going to do it for this episode of Blistered Reviews. Come back this Saturday for another episode of Unrepented Geeking. I'm not entirely sure what it's going to be covering, depending on developments at San Diego Comic-Con. Otherwise, I'll just tackle some reviews. Regardless, there'll definitely be some good stuff for all you geeks out there. Thanks for watching, and as always, for Thumb Wars and That Guy with the Glasses, I'm Sean Cronenfeld, wishing you all happy gaming.